All right, so today we're going to be working on the sky and the tree line portion of these boats. And I have my paper palette here, and I have some titanium white, a little bit of dioxazine purple. The next color we have is ivory black, and the last color is cobalt blue. Let's start mixing some paint. I also have a little bit of liquid, as you can see here. I'm going to use that for a few things today. I'll tell you where we're going. Now, the sky's got a purplish tint, so I'm going to start mixing a bit of titanium white. Actually, quite a bit of titanium white, about 70%. I'm going to kind of dip in, well, maybe a little more titanium white. And that's kind of how much I have on my brush there. Quite a large amount rather. A little bit dioxazine purple. Now, when you're using dioxazine purple, I tend to overuse it a little bit, but it's a strong color as you can see there. And I'm just going to add a bit of ivory black to this to dull it out, take a bit of that purple out of there because I put too much in there. And I think I'm going to dip into a little bit of cobalt blue because I don't really like the way that this looks right now. It doesn't look accurate to what I have in my reference photo. Yeah, and you can also see that cobalt blue is a fairly strong color as well. And I think that's a little closer. Now, yeah, something's just missing here. And I think I'm going to put a little more liquid on my jar lid here to use to kind of work as a drying agent, but also to give it a little bit of flow. And I'm literally just going to dip the very left or right corner of my triangular brush here. Well, it's a flat brush, but it's got a triangular edge into the liquid, and it's going to look a little bit like that. Let's go ahead and start painting the sky. So pretty uniform color, and I've blocked this in an acrylic paint just so it can dry a little quicker and I can work a little faster on this. And I'm really looking for a fluid motion there. I want to keep the paint consistent. And in order to do that, I need to make short brush strokes around where there's going to be other objects like this boat and the tree line, but I want to keep these brush strokes kind of long where I have a lot of area to work with, kind of up towards where I'm working right now. And as you can see, for every horizontal brush stroke that I make, I usually tend to make a vertical one as well. Just adding a little more paint there. No more liquid. And I'm also adding no more colors, but let's continue to work on the sky. Like I said, it's a pretty uniform color. Really no changes at all, not a lot of clouds. Kind of just a cloudy day overall. Very overcast. Really trying to work around those edges so I don't have to come back later and do it. And I want to keep my brush strokes long around this area if I can. And, well, I tend to have trouble doing this as well, so it's always something you need to think about. The longer your brush strokes, the less brush lines you have, and the more obvious it is that you're using a coarser brush. If you can find a fine brush, that's always better because then it doesn't matter, but I have a kind of an older brush I'm using just because I don't think the sky's going to matter too much in this painting. Now I've added a little more liquid to this portion of the paint and a bit more cobalt blue because it's got a little more blue tint as we work from the right, as you can see there. From the left to the right, I'm really taking into consideration that I have some pretty sharp outlining to do in this painting, seeing that I have big objects that are the main focus, the boats. So I want to keep my brush strokes long in the bigger areas and make sure that I get a good outline in the areas that have objects that I don't want this color in, such as these boats. Now, it really doesn't matter what brush you use. I'm just using a bigger brush so I can cover a little more area. If you're just starting out though, it may be good to use a smaller brush. You can use the same type of brush I'm using, which is just a flat brush, flat synthetic brush that is. And the brush I'm using is actually made for watercolor paints, but I'm using oil paint, just traditional oil paint. And, you know, there's debate whether or not artist grade oil paint is better than traditional or student oil paint. And I would have to agree that in very many aspects it is, but also student grade oil paint has very good benefits as well because it's cheap. Typically speaking, there's not a noticeable difference depending on what you're doing. And some will argue that, and I can see it both ways, absolutely. But if you're on a budget and you're just learning how to paint, there's no point in buying student grade oil. And as you can see, I'm going to add a little more liquid here. A lot of thoughts. I'm trying to get them all out here. Now, I'm going to continue working on the sky for just a bit here, and I'm going to speed the video up just a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. So now I want to start working on this, well, this tree line here. And, to do that, yeah, and probably over here as well. To do that, I think I'm going to have to add some sap green to the palette here. So why don't we go ahead and do that real quick? See if I can find it. There it is. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to be using a fast drying oil paint for this portion of the painting, and I'm going to switch brushes here. I'm going to use this brush. It's just an older synthetic flat brush, and I'm going to use some liquid. Now I'm going to be making a glaze to go over the portion of the trees here, and I'm going to be doing that by putting quite a bit of liquid down on my panel there, as you can see. About 80% liquid, and I'm going to start slowly adding paint into that. I'm going to dip into this ivory black here, but I need to put this sap green on the panel first, and this is Winsor & Newton sap green. It's a fast drying paint, so it's, in addition to the liquid, going to speed up the drying time of our painting, which is beneficial for us to start working on it immediately. And I'm going to just kind of take some of this sap green from another palette actually to try and preserve my colors here and the amount of paint I'm using. I'm going to add it into that liquid mixture. Again, very small amount, about 10% sap green. Or, so I got about 90% liquid, 5% sap green. I'm going to add about 5% ivory black to that, just to darken up on that glaze. Now, I'm going to dip the end of the brush into that glaze there, as you can see here. Very, very small amount of paint. And I'm going to start actually just kind of dabbing that glaze mixture onto the tree line here, and it's going to really bring out the colors of the green pukey colors that are back here. Remember, this is just sap green and ivory black. There's really no specific way to do this. I would recommend either doing it in a very fluid motion like you would paint a sky, or you can dab it on like this and really try and get a good texture to whatever you're painting over and really make it look like there's layers of trees. That's very important. And you'll kind of notice that here as I'm doing that. I'm just kind of dabbing that paint on. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Now, this tree line goes a little higher than I actually have it in the picture here, so I need to keep that in mind. And I may actually work over a little bit of this, to be completely honest. But for now, I think it looks decent, and I'm just going to kind of persevere with it for a sec here. I'm really ensuring that I'm getting the tree line correct here, because I don't want to go too high with this, but I also want to make it look pretty natural. And you can really play around with it, honestly. You don't have to make it look perfect, but it needs to be fairly accurate. So I'm working into the foreground now, and you can really see how that glaze really brings out the dark colors, or rather the quality of green that I made in the background. And you can see if you kind of stipe it, or rather if you layered this on, you would get a really good effect. As you can see, it's giving it a lot of depth. It looks more 3D than it did. And you can make a lot of bushes and very strong structures with a glaze. And so that's why I'm choosing to use one here. I don't choose to use a glaze always, but I think it works quite well for this painting, because especially right around in front there where that lumber meets that front boat that's kind of laying on its side, there's going to be a lot of dark areas in there, and that putting a glaze on there may not do the trick, but we're gonna find out here in a sec. So let me keep moving on with this painting. Just mixing in, using about the same color. I might start mixing in some phthalo green in addition to the sap green here in a sec. But for now, I want to keep the same colors, and we'll keep working on it here. So I like the way this is painted out. I want to see how this looks on this really dark area of the painting where the lumber is going to be. And I don't know if it's going to be dark enough, so I'm going to add a little bit of ivory black to that. Still keeping that greenish glaze that I have going on there, but I'm just adding some more ivory black and maybe a little bit of cobalt blue up here, just to give it a little extra oomph, if you will. And I'm pretty much going to keep this a consistent color all the way through, because it doesn't really matter. As you can see, it's pretty dark. And yeah, we may end up going over that in the future, but for now, I think it gives it a good placement. It really brings into perspective the other parts of this painting, and I think that it's really coming together now. It's getting a lot of depth. I like the way it's looking, and I think we're setting ourselves up to finish this painting out pretty strong. Start working on the boats here next, and we'll go from there.